afternoon and welcome to today's professional development. I am Arianne Quinn, South Cobb World Languages teacher. Today's focus is going to be on Duolingo as a resource in the classroom. I know most of us are familiar with Duolingo as an app, but let's see some of the changes and innovations that they have had most recently and how they're using Duolingo in the classroom. So for today's presentation, we're going to focus on exploring Duolingo as a resource, learning about specifically Duolingo in schools, and discuss how teachers are implementing this in the classroom, and then hopefully discuss how we can meet our learning targets and goals for the district. So what's the hype with Duolingo? It's an increasingly popular game-based app learning platform with a lot of changes. If you didn't know, there are schools now in 110 different countries out of 195 that include the US, the UK, Canada, and Australia that are now using Duolingo specifically in their classrooms for language instruction. There have been new significant changes since the pandemic, if you haven't used it since then, and it is now incorporating podcasts, stories, AI, and speaking exercises that you can use with your students. So just to show you how many resources Duolingo is putting into its program, I'm going to show two little short ads. These are not the most recent, but they are heavily promoting their language app profile. So let's watch this one.
Mi bolígrafo es rosa. My pen is pink.
Oops.
Duolingo is the free, fun, and effective way to learn a language. With over 35 languages and interactive bite-sized lessons that keep you motivated, Duolingo is the world's #1 language learning app. Download Duolingo and start learning a language today.
So what is Duolingo? We're going to talk about what it is as a resource just to use it as an end user and what's offered in the app. So Duolingo says that its mission is to develop the best education in the world and make it universally available, not just for language instructions, but it now has music and math as programs that are available. It is the most downloaded education app in the world. There are currently over 500 million Duolingo users worldwide, and it now teaches 40 languages. I think that video was a little bit older, it said 35, but they are incorporating new languages and dialects every day. And more than 300,000 teachers use Duolingo in their classrooms worldwide. And the reason why students love it is because it feels like a game and it is super effective. What Duolingo is not, it is not a replacement for teachers. This is their mission statement. They still want teachers to supplement, to support students, to act as coaches when they are doing activities. It is not a form of remediation. You are not sending failing students to do Duolingo activities. We have other resources for those like Source Saturday and Edmentum, so that's not what this is for. It's more for adding enrichment and mastery of unit topics within the classroom. Why we use it. So studies have shown that it is very effective. There was a 2020 study that found that Spanish and French Duolingo students can learn what is covered in 5 university semesters of language instruction. And I'm going to go to the learning platform, which is actually my old learning platform, just to show a little bit of the units for those that aren't familiar with how Duolingo might work. So going back to an initial unit, this is a pathway within the unit, so I'm going to go to an early one in Spanish, and we'll look at each unit has a guidebook, which isn't necessary for the students to see, but you can preview, because they're going to be playing the games and doing all of the activities, but you can preview all of the key phrases that they're going to be covering in depth.
¿Quieres probar la sopa?
And on each word
¿Quieres?
that the student needs to review, they can press on that word and figure
Probar.
out from their vocabulary list in their native language what the meaning is
Sopa.
for each sentence.
Yo siempre pruebo tus sopas. Siempre.
So each of the key words that are repeated within the games, you can break down for them and review this material prior to the lessons that you assign or that the student goes through. And there is definitely grammar embedded in the unit, so you can see that with your students and preview that.
Los chicos almuerzan en la escuela.
And you even see that it provides, similar to what we're doing in the classroom or we're reviewing in the classroom, it's reviewing whatever verbs we're going through, if they're regular verbs, what the patterns are. So some things that you may not realize, or if you haven't seen Duolingo in quite some time, let me go down to another unit, is that in addition to key phrases and questions that you are reviewing, let's talk about travel plans. You also have stories embedded within the lessons that the students can practice. And those are highly...
Demasiado peligroso.
No puedo, Lily.
Again, they can figure out each vocabulary
Sí
section,
puedes,
figure out-
no te preocupes.
So they can
Tengo
figure out-
miedo. Es demasiado peligroso.
And they can, when they're getting things wrong, I mean, they're getting the immediate feedback, they're going back to the vocabulary, and then they're...
No quiero ir.
Another thing that they have is they have audio exercises in here, embedded.
Welcome, lovely listeners, to another episode of Vikram's Community Hotline, where I answer your calls to make our community even better. I'm your host, Vikram, and today's message is all about the bird problem in our parks. As you listen to this episode, it's okay if you don't understand every word. Here are some keywords to help you follow along.
So they're getting the vocabulary prior to the
Por eso.
lesson, and they're
Por
matching
eso.
up the vocabulary
Color. Parque.
to
Let's hear from our first caller.
particular lessons.
Hola Vikram, soy Marta. Tenemos muchas flores en el parque de nuestra ciudad. Tenemos muchas flores en el parque de nuestra ciudad. Siempre hay flores, en primavera, en invierno y en verano.
So I'm going to stop
Y el pro-
here and go back. So one other thing that I want to point out before continuing with the presentation is, so in addition to audio and stories that they can listen to, that in real time they can figure out what the vocabulary means without our help, there are also podcasts that students can listen to, especially for some of our more advanced students that finish lessons really quickly and want a little bit more cultural, can delve into more cultural topics. You can choose for them based on their language, their native language skills, which podcast they want to listen to. So we'll see that a little bit later, but there's the resources of the story, the audio, and the repetition of the vocabulary on the Duolingo learning platform. So how teachers are using this in the classroom. So looking at all of the studies and all the information that Duolingo is putting out, here's a couple of ways that teachers are implementing this effectively. They're either hosting weekly Duolingo days, separate days, where the teacher actually acts as a coach or as a guide, circling the room and supporting student activities. They're using it for individual, additional independent practice when a student needs a little bit more help. But what I saw most importantly is they're using it for enrichment for students that are mastering content very easily, and they're finishing their tests very quickly, or they're finishing a topic very quickly, and they need to go a little bit further. So there's a lot of resources within the podcasts, the stories, the audio that they're listening to that you can assign to those students so that they can master that content or even move up to the next level. So that's how we get into answering those questions about what do we do when the students do learn what we've taught them. The other thing that's interesting is that for some of us who have family members that ask us how to help their child or how to access language instruction, this is something that families can do alongside with their child, like I do at home with my children. So they can sit alongside their child and actually see the units that they're learning and work on it themselves. So one thing that we have here in South Cobb that I think is interesting is we have a lot of diverse learners. We have students coming from other countries. We have students that have a base knowledge of Spanish already, students that are heritage learners within the same classroom. So this is an interesting contribution by this ESOL lead, Evelyn Belcher. She said, I have students who know some English and some who don't even read in Spanish because their native language is an indigenous language. Duolingo allows me to assign work in different languages to be able to reach them all. So you can even put the instructions in their language. Like you could put Spanish, but then have a Spanish podcast. So you have a lot of flexibility in terms of differentiating lessons to diverse learners. So we finally came to what is Duolingo for schools, how it's implemented specifically. So just so that we know what's new to Duolingo, there was a complete overhaul in 2021 and new features updated in 2022. There's a new free teacher dashboard where you can create your classrooms. You can assign work individually or you can do whole class assignments and track and monitor all student progress. So here are some important features. The teacher dashboard is very user-friendly, and I'm just gonna go to it quickly so that you can see that to get started with the new Duolingo, there are videos that are very short and user-friendly on anything you wanna do, setting up your account, adding students to your classroom, creating and managing students, managing their data, looking at the settings, using it in their classroom, which is a very good video of how teachers are implementing this. And if you don't want to watch the video, you can even download quick slides, which are very user-friendly and short. So it's not time-intensive, and I found it to be very easy to implement. So here's another very important feature here in the Cobb County School District. This is one of the only learning app platforms that has privacy settings. So you can actually go into your settings. You can disable the function where students can participate with other Duolingo users. That's incredibly important. You can disable a events page where they would have contact with other social media users that use Duolingo's content. You can disable things on their social profiles, but most importantly, you can disable any mature content within the Duolingo app. So there are a couple of stories that might make reference to like beer, drinking beer or wine in a food unit. You can disable that. There's a couple of stories that deal with some romantic encounters or dating situation. You can disable any mature content that our high schoolers might come in contact with. Another important feature is the student progress. This allows teachers to track when students complete assignments, how much time they spent, and it also assigns a grade for accuracy and completion of the activity. and we can discuss how we would implement this, but this is what it would look like. So this would be like a classroom Excel spreadsheet of when an assignment was completed, how much they completed, the total time spent on a particular unit that's assigned, and then you can have a actual score for the accuracy, for the average, and you can also see how much time is spent. So you know that if a student has a really high average and they spend 3 minutes on it, they need some more enrichment, and you can move them along. But tracking grades on Duolingo is very easy if you need to supplement for any independent practice that the student might need. And then finally here, I have a slide on, we were all talking about AI in the classroom, and Duolingo uses AI in its platform. So this is a short video of how they're incorporating AI and what they are doing to use that functionality to help students access better language instruction.
ChatGPT, Dolly, Spotify AI DJ, Tesla Autopilot. AI is having quite a moment right now. It seems like everyone's talking about it. And it seems like more and more companies and apps are starting to use it. At Duolingo, we've been using AI to make learning more fun and effective since we launched over 10 years ago. I'm Clinton Bignell, Duolingo's head of AI, and I'm excited to tell you about it. The reason why we've been using AI for over 10 years is our mission, which is to develop the best education in the world and make it universally available. And Duolingo believes that technology, and AI in particular, is the best way to scale high-quality education to everyone. So we use it throughout Duolingo. Let me tell you about a few examples that you may already know about. When you start a new course for a language that you already know some of, we give you a test to efficiently figure out where in that course you should start. That's AI. Or those notifications that you get to remind you to do your daily lesson, which sometimes could be just a little passive-aggressive. Those are optimized with AI. Outside the language learning app, this also extends to the Duolingo English test, where we use machine learning to help create and grade test questions, to help administer adaptive tests, and even help with security. Today, I'll highlight two of our most recent efforts in AI. In one, we're using the latest advances in AI technology to provide new, richly interactive experiences to our learners. And in the other, we're combining all of the data that we have about our learners with AI models to personalize and optimize everyone's learning. First, our latest features, powered by OpenAI's most powerful model, GPT-4. This is the same technology that powers ChatGPT. Duolingo has worked with OpenAI for years, and we were working with them on 2 new learning features using GPT-4 before it was even announced to the public. And then we released those 2 features together with GPT-4 as official launch partners earlier this year. Both of them represent things that just weren't possible before. We're using the most cutting-edge AI technology to provide completely new experiences to our learners, and I'm super excited to tell you about them today. Both of these features are part of a new Duolingo Max subscription that's currently in limited beta release. The first feature we call Roleplay. In Roleplay, learners can practice having a free-form conversation aimed at a particular goal. That could be ordering a drink at a cafe in Paris, or it could be helping a lost tourist. This gives learners practice having real conversations with natural feedback, just like in real life. It's an extremely useful way of leveling up your language skills. But these aren't just any conversations. Since we're Duolingo, these are conversations with our Duolingo world characters, each with their own personality and backstory. So your barista in that Parisian cafe, that might be Lily. And that lost tourist that you're helping, that could be Eddie. Many of these conversations will also have some surprising plot twists to keep you on your toes. And finally, at the end of every conversation, we'll give you some tips about how you can have an even better conversation next time. The second of our GPT-4 powered features is called Explain My Answer. In it, you can ask Duolingo to explain an answer. This solves the common situation where you get an exercise wrong, but you're not quite sure why. Or maybe you even got it right, but you weren't quite sure why your answer was the right one. We use AI to generate these explanations for you in true Duolingo style, using simple, friendly language without jargon. For both of these features, we created them by combining GPT-4 with our in-house AI technology to deliver experiences that just weren't possible before. And I'm very excited to see how they're going to improve your learning. In addition to our new GPT-4 powered features, we've been continuing our work building AI models to optimize and personalize every lesson that you do. Duolingo learners do over 9 billion exercises every week, and we feed all of that data into AI models to make the experience better for everyone. As you may have heard from our presentation at DuoCon 2021, we affectionately call the AI model that learns from all this data BirdBrain. Since that talk 2 years ago, however, we developed a completely new version of BirdBrain that uses the latest advances in AI technology to learn an even richer picture of what every person knows and which exercises are going to maximize their learning. Additionally, this new model updates its predictions about each learner in real time, meaning that what you do in one lesson can affect your very next lesson. The main way we use BirdBrain is we make predictions about how hard a particular exercise is going to be for a particular learner. You could think about these predictions as predicting how likely would this learner be to get that exercise right. So for example, if a learner has a 98% predicted chance of getting an exercise right, that's going to feel really easy. The learner probably won't learn much from it, and they might even get a little bored. If BirdBrain predicts that the learner has a 45% chance of getting this exercise right, that's going to feel very hard. It will probably discourage the learner, and they might not learn much from it. Now, if we predict a 79% chance, that's going to be just the right level of challenge that's going to keep this learner engaged and learning efficiently. We use this new version of BirdBrain to figure out which exercises will be best for you. We also use it to figure out the best order to put those exercises in a lesson to maximize how much you're going to learn. BirdBrain is effective. It leads to learners being more engaged and learning more. But the real magic of BirdBrain is that we can take all the data that we have about you and what you've done on Duolingo and combine it with the data we have about all of our other learners and what they've done on Duolingo to personalize and optimize your learning experience. Duolingo has been using AI since it started in its mission to provide high-quality education to everyone. And recently, that AI usage has been ramping up more and more as the latest advances in AI are allowing us to do things that we just couldn't before. Like allowing for richer interactions, like free-form conversations, or answering your questions about why an answer was wrong, and personalizing more deeply to meet you exactly where you are. All this means that Duolingo is becoming an even better personal tutor that's always in your pocket. And I can't wait for you to try it. Thank you.
So that component of the AI is where it's very customizable to what the student needs, because it's only going to give the student speaking practice based on what they've mastered already, so that it's not too easy, not too hard, and that's something that I think benefits any language instruction. So that concludes the new features of Duolingo. The only thing that I'll add is on that teacher support page where it listed all of the videos. There's some really good videos there of how teachers are making lessons out of the stories and the audio that we saw, with full lesson plans of how it's being used across the country. So I hope that that was useful and you saw some new things. But definitely for speaking, reading, and customizing independent activities, I think it's a great resource.
Thank you.